Hi, I'm Ellie Waddington, a hypnobirthing teacher, positive birth advocate, and mum to two feral but adorable children. You are listening to the Bell Mama Hypnobirthing and Positive Birth podcast. This podcast is here to empower you with the tools, knowledge, and confidence you need for a calm, positive birth experience. Together, we'll tackle the big questions, bust some myths, and share practical tips for your journey into motherhood. Plus, you'll hear inspiring real birth stories from mums who've been there, and expert guests sharing their wisdom and insights. Whether you're planning your first or adding to your tribe, I've got you covered, so let's dive in. Hey gorgeous mama, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. This week I have a lovely birth story for you from the wonderful Sophie from Bumps and Birth. And Sophie is kind of, for me, one of those friends that you speak to on social media quite a lot. We've never met in real life, probably never will meet in real life, but we get on because we have a few things in common. And I remember we were kind of bonding at the beginning of the year because both of our youngest were toilet training at around the same time, and they were starting nursery around the same time as well. So we were both kind of chatting about that, and she recommended a travel potty for me, which I did buy, by the way. Sophie, if you're listening to this, I did actually buy that. It's come very useful. Thank you very much. And so she's just a wonderful person to talk to, and I've really enjoyed listening to this birth story. It's a positive induction story, and I'm very clear that I want all types of positive birth stories on this podcast. So although I do obviously champion natural birth and home birth because I think more people should consider that as an option, I'm absolutely all for listening to all kinds of birth stories, because I'm a firm believer that how you feel about your birth, how you come away feeling about your birth is more important than the actual method of how you gave birth to your baby. So this is a wonderful positive induction story, and I cannot wait for you to listen to it. So here it is.
Right, so hi, I'm Sophie. I run Bumps and Births Hypnobirthing in Norwich. I'm here to talk about my birth story with Jasper, which is my second son. So I'm a mum to two boys, Elliot, who's 5, and Jasper, who's 2. So I first found hypnobirthing actually in my first pregnancy, but I decided not to go ahead and book a course. I think the reason behind that was I was very set on it was for home births. I didn't think it would be something for me. My sister actually was doing hypnobirthing at the time and kept telling me all these great things about it, but I was still set in my ways. No, it's not going to be for me. So I didn't do it. And just in a nutshell, my first birth was very long, very hard work. I wasn't aware of the induction process. I wasn't aware of interventions. I wasn't aware of my rights, choices, anything like that. So I ended up feeling really, really down after my birth. It wasn't something that I was prepared for. I just thought I'd go in. I knew it would be hard work. I'd have a baby, and everything would be great. And it was a total opposite, to be honest. And I really struggled because of that. I really struggled to come to terms with the birth experience and feeling like I had failed. So 2 years later, I became pregnant again, and I knew I needed something different. And I thought, what can I do? And then hypnobirthing came up again in my mind. I had a friend that had done it as well and told me great things about it. And I thought, right, I'm going for it. So yeah, I booked the hypnobirthing course. Still was a little bit apprehensive. I think probably most people are when they book hypnobirthing because they don't really know what to expect. Did the course. It was in 2 sessions. And I thought, oh, I wonder like what else I could learn. I know I'm going to do some breathing techniques. They'll probably talk about, the placenta, things like that. I knew very, very small snippets of hypnobirthing, but I had no idea how much I could actually learn. And in those 2 sessions, I felt so much more confident. I felt so confident in my ability to actually birth a baby. That was something I never had in my first pregnancy. I felt like, oh my God, I'm gonna have this baby. I'm not gonna cope with the pain, what probably a lot of first time mums feel. Um, but it was crazy. In these 2 sessions, I felt like a new person. I knew how to relax on demand. I knew how to set up my birth environment. My birth partner, he knew his role. It was brilliant, and I think that's where it sparked this. I've always been really interested in pregnancy, birth, babies, and so on. But I think that was a point where I was like, actually, there's so much more to know about all of this, so much to learn, and everyone should know this. You know, you shouldn't have to really do a course to know about all of this. It should just, you know, it should all just be given to us. But yeah, it was amazing. So I went into my birth, like the weeks leading up to my due date, just really calm, really prepared. I had loads of stuff booked in my diary because I didn't want that gap in between my due date to think, oh God, when's baby gonna come? I thought, no, I'm just gonna ride through and just see what happens. I had a couple of difficult situations in my pregnancy. I had pelvic girdle, which I try not to think about too much because the pain of that was horrendous. Um, I also had carpal tunnel, and I just couldn't wait for it to go and disappear. Um, but at the same time, I knew that, my due date wasn't that fixed date, that baby was going to come by then. I knew that I needed to give my body a little bit more time. And, weighing up the pros and cons of that, I was like, I need this positive birth experience more than anyone could imagine, especially from my first experience. So my due date was April the 11th, Monday, April the 11th of 2022. Um, and I did tell people my due date, which is something if I was to have another baby, I wouldn't do. Because I then started getting the messages and it was just like, no, no, I'll tell you when baby's here. Whereas in my first pregnancy, I remember feeling so much pressure. These messages started to come in, and I was like, oh my God, people are wanting me to have this baby. I need to be induced. I need to do this. I was like, no, like it's fine, baby will come when he's ready. Um, so yeah, my due date was the 11th, and it was the 14th. So the Thursday, I woke up in the morning and my waters had broke. Um, it was just a trickle, but I knew it was my waters. It definitely wasn't anything like you see in these films, like this mad gush. Um, and again, hypnobirthing was so beneficial, even with my waters breaking, because I didn't have that. My waters didn't break. They broke them in hospital with my first son. But I think I would have thought, oh my God, my waters have broke. I've got to get to the hospital, let's quickly get the bags packed, let's quickly get in the car. But I was just like, oh, my waters are broke. Cool. Let's have a coffee. Um, and yeah, so they broke and I kept an eye on that, but everything was fine. I was meant to have a midwife appointment that day, and I knew that I would probably be offered a sweep. So I let my midwife know that my waters had broke, and she said don't come in for the appointment because we wouldn't be able to do the sweep anyway if I was to want to have one, um, and think about induction. And I thought, oh well, I know this is my choice. Let's just see how today goes. So I tried to, I had a really nice day actually. I stayed at home, and I think Elliot was at nursery that day, and I just watched films and just like made sure my bags were all packed just in case I did decide for the induction. And just had a really nice chilled day at home, to be honest. And nothing happened. Contractions didn't start. And I thought, I know they would if I gave my body a bit more time. But I think I was just so ready. I was so ready to give birth. And I think that's another misconception of hypnobirthing where people might think, oh, I can't accept induction or I can't accept intervention. It's actually, you know, you're more than you can be more than happy to accept anything you want as long as it's your choice and you're making informed choices. And I did, and I really did. I knew what my options were, and I was induced with my first son, um, and it was horrendous. And I was like, I know induction doesn't have to be like that. So I called up and they said, yeah, come in tomorrow. So that would have been Friday the 15th. Um, and come in, I think they said about 8 a.m. So I probably didn't sleep as well as what I thought I did because I was just too excited, thinking, oh, well, contractions start, but they didn't. So went in the following morning, and things were just pretty chilled. Like they were really slow to begin with. I was chatting to the midwives. I went straight onto delivery suite, and again, I visualize myself like early on before I did my hypnobirthing, to maybe be on midwife-led birthing unit or to have a pool on delivery suite. And I went into this room, no pool. I was on delivery suite, and the Sophie before hypnobirthing, I would have panicked and thought, ah, I need that pool. Okay, and that would have started the fear off. But I didn't. I just knew I had other techniques that I could use. I knew I had the shower or the bath, massage techniques, and I just thought that's fine. We can go past that. Um, so yeah, I was actually really really excited, and I was like, let's get this baby born. I couldn't wait. So I didn't set up the room like with my candles and stuff to begin with, because I knew things were probably going to be a bit slow. So we went and got some food, priority and all that. And yeah, we watched a few films. I was then offered to have my waters broken, which I accepted again because I was just wanting to speed up the process a bit. So I had my waters broken, and I had a few tightenings, but nothing major. Um, they then offered me the hormone drip. And again, I had it with my first birth. And I was always told, hormone drip, oh my God, it's horrendous. You need to have an epidural as soon as possible. And I was like, no, like I can do this. I can tell them when is, like a limit. Like I'm okay with how it's going at the minute. Let's leave it there. I knew I was in control of the situation, which just made me feel so much more relaxed about everything, really. Um, yeah, so before I had the hormone drip, I set up my room really nice. I made sure I didn't have the bright lights on. I had pictures of my little boy and my scan photos just dotted about the room. It was really lovely, and it smelled like a spa as well. So, and everyone that came in, oh, it smells lovely. And I was like, I know, done that myself. Yeah, so I then had the hormone drip inserted, and um, I knew what to expect. They did talk through it a little bit. Um, but I knew what to expect with that. And obviously they start really slow. Um, but I just wanted to keep mobile and active. And again, going back to my first labor, I laid on the bed the entire time. And I look back now and think, why didn't you just get up? I knew I was uncomfortable. I knew I was in so much pain, but I just thought, well, this is what you do. So I made a point of my second labor. I was like, I'm going to be up. I'm going to be upright. I'm going to be active. If I want to lay down for a bit to rest, then fine. But let's get up. Let's get active. Let's think about what my body actually needs and what it needs to do to help. Um, so the hormone drip was increased a few times, and then I started to have more regular contractions. And my breathing techniques were really good at that point. I remember being on the ball, and I had a film in the background. I think I had Step Brothers on because I love that. And every time I find it funny. So I was like, it will boost my endorphins. And yeah, I was doing my calm breathing on the ball, so I was active. And I just remember it being brilliant. And that might sound bizarre for people, you know, that haven't done hypnobirthing. Like, how can you enjoy having contractions? But I was in such a good mindset and so understanding of the process and so aware of what was going on, and I knew I could do it. I had such confidence in myself, and I don't usually have that as a person. So that was a really big thing for me, especially in a vulnerable and, important situation like that. So yeah, over the course of a few hours, the hormone drip was increased a couple of more times. Um, so it was probably about 7 p.m. where I remember um, my contractions got quite intense. And there was a couple of times that I took myself to the bathroom just on my own, just to be alone and just to have a wee, empty my bladder, and another excuse to get up and be mobile. And yeah, those few moments that I had in the bathroom on my own, and I'd put candles in the bathroom as well, so I didn't need the bright lights on. Those few moments on my own were just like, right, let's get back in the zone. Let's do this. I had a couple of affirmation cards in the bathroom as well. And one of them that stuck was saying, I can do hard things. And I was like, I can. Of course I can. I don't usually, back out of anything if it's hard. Like, I'm up for a challenge. And this is another challenge. Like, I'll get through it. And yeah, it was really, those moments really stuck out for me. Like, I just needed to be on my own, get myself back in that zone, and you know, go for it. So then I'd come out of the bathroom, and we'd get either back on my ball, or I found leaning over the bed was really working. Um, yeah, and then I remember my contractions getting pretty intense. So they were lasting around 60 to 90 seconds. Oh, yeah, probably about 60 seconds at this point, and maybe 60 seconds in between. Um, and a big thing that I was doing at this point as well was visualizing what my body was actually trying to do. Um, so I know I keep going back to it, but it was just the comparison of my birth is just honestly total opposite. And my first labor, all I could think is, oh my God, this pain. And I was like this, like really, really tense. I could feel everything in my body was so tense, which was obviously making the pain more worse. And I remember that they did really ramp up, and I thought, oh, okay, right, these are getting quite intense now. But visualizing what my body was actually trying to do, and visualizing the down breaths, and my body's actually trying to work and birth my baby, and I can help my body do what it's supposed to do, was such a good way of getting through those intense contractions. Um, so I was then offered, so they were quite intense, probably till about, well, they carried on being intense, but I remember about 8 p.m. And I went into the bathroom again, had a few words with myself because I started to get a bit of a wobble, which I was expecting at some point. And again, the affirmation cards really helped. And I really was proud of myself for getting back in that zone, because I felt for a minute like I had lost it. And I would start to lose that sense of control. But it was really important to have those techniques there, and the support, like from my birth partner, to get back in that zone, which I did. And contractions carried on, being intense, lasting around 90 seconds or 60 to 90 seconds. About 9:15 p.m., I was offered a vaginal examination. And although I'd learned, they're not accurate, they can be subjectable, but I was just intrigued to see where I was. So I accepted, and this was about 9:15, 9:20 p.m. The midwife said I was 4 centimeters, and I just sort of knew that I was either more than that, or I thought, okay, well, these are intense. Like, I'm sure I'm either now going to progress really quickly, or I might be a few centimeters more. So yeah, and before that would have really disheartened me, but knowing that they weren't accurate, learning that through hypnobirthing was a game changer. Because I think then I would have been like, right, I need something else. Like, if I'm only 4 centimeters, I can't do this. I would have really gone into panic mode. Um, but I didn't. I kept really calm. And so I then laid on the bed. I was laid on the bed for the vaginal examination. And yeah, she said I was 4 centimeters. And I thought, right, okay, what can I do to get myself through this last bit? And do you know what I was doing was really working well anyway. Again, took myself away for a few minutes, had a wee, and I looked in the mirror in the bathroom and I had my affirmations on. And I remember talking out loud to myself. And usually I think, oh, will someone hear me? Will they think I'm a bit crazy? And I thought, I don't care. I don't care. This is my moment. And I remember just saying to myself, you can do this. Like, you're so close. You're nearly there. Like, you'll be proud of yourself. And yeah, I then came back and I was using the gas and air. I did use gas and air, and that did really help. That really took the edge off the contractions. Um, and I remember sitting on the bed and I was leaning on my partner, and it was almost like I felt this drop, and I was like, oh, okay, something's changed here. And I then sort of realized that I would have then been in the transition stage, because something changed. And, you know, I knew he was coming. And I said to the midwife, and it probably sounded really silly at the time, but I remember saying, I'm sitting on his head. And she was like, no, 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 like, Sophie, it wasn't that long ago you were 4 centimeters. And I was like, I know it wasn't, but I do know that I can progress quickly as well. And it was almost like she didn't quite believe me. And I said, like, he's coming. He is definitely coming. So she was like, okay, let's see what's going on. Let's get you to lay back and open your leg. So as I done that and I popped my leg up, she said, oh, okay, baby's head is there. And I was like, see, I knew I was right. Um, and that is the thing, your own body. And I knew what was going on, thanks to hypnobirthing as well. Like I said, I would have really panicked at that 4 centimeter stage. And that was 20 minutes. Well, actually 15 minutes before this. So I'd gone from 4 centimeters to 10 centimeters in 15 minutes. So it just proves, that vaginal examinations aren't okay, so you're 4 centimeters here, you've got such and such hours to go. Like, it just proves that. So yeah, I then pushed about 3 times, I think, and I didn't even put my all into it. I remember thinking I can do much better than this, but I didn't really need to. Yeah, and I think after the first push, Jasper's head was out, and then the second and third, he was born, and he was that I specifically asked for him to be put straight on my chest, which he was, and I just remember putting my head back, thinking, "Oh my God, I've done it! I've done it! I have absolutely smashed this," and that was straight after birth. Yeah, I was tired and exhausted, but that feeling of I've done it and I'm so proud of myself, that will never leave me. And I still feel so proud of myself now. Um, so yeah, Jasper had been born and it was just amazing. Um, and he was on my chest and we had skin to skin. And we just literally, I just laid there for like 20 minutes, just cuddling him. And I accepted the injection for the placenta because I think by that point I was like, do whatever. Yeah, I've got what I want now. I've got what I need. So yeah, I had the injection for the placenta to be born, and I then started breastfeeding. I had no idea what I was doing, but my midwife was great at supporting me with that because I didn't breastfeed Elliot. Um, but again, with hypnobirthing, I felt like I was more capable of breastfeeding in my first pregnancy. I thought, oh no, I don't know what I'm doing. And I thought, no, I'm gonna breastfeed Jasper. So I did, and again that I was on cloud nine. Um, we got him dressed, and it was about an hour later. I went for a shower, and I stood in the shower on my own, and that feeling of afterbirth, like the first time you touch your stomach after 9 months of not having a baby in there. And it was almost like I felt empty, but I couldn't feel like fuller, like my heart was so full. Um, and it was just amazing. And I moved to the postnatal ward quite shortly after. Um, and then we went home the next day, um, after, Jasper had checks, and I had checks. I had no tears, stitches, or anything, which I think that was all because I listened to my body, of when to push. And when I was ready to, you know, be in that birthing stage, I totally listened to myself. Um, yeah, we went home the next day and started life as a family of four, and it was brilliant. It really set me off to a great start of being a mum to two. Elliot was only 2 at the time, so I had a toddler and a newborn. And pre-hypnobirthing, that panicked me. I thought, oh my God, how the hell am I going to manage this? But, obviously I had hard days and stuff, but I think just because of such a positive birth experience, it really set me up in such a great way of being a mum of two and dealing with toddler and newborn days. So, yeah, I think that's my story done.
Thanks for tuning in to the Bell Mama Hypnobirthing and Positive Birth podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a review and hit subscribe on your favourite podcast platform so you never miss an update. I'd love to hear from you, so if there's a topic you'd like me to cover, or a question you'd like answered, or if you'd like to share your birth story, please get in touch by email or DM me on Instagram. Until next time, take care.